Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marceno, cover-up of State Attorney Amira Fox's forgery. Greetings world. We are the Aegis Alliance, with anonymous allies. Two types of courts exist in Lee County, Florida, Circuit Court, and County Court, and this is a report about the crime of forgery and official misconduct. Both of those charges are third-degree felonies, and are used to bounce cases between these two courts, by a state attorney to shop for the best judges and courts for cases. Judge shopping is a common allegation in the legal world. In Lee County, Florida, they push judge shopping to a higher level of corruption, court shopping. It is difficult, and can only be accomplished with an official crime. Now the unelected sheriff, Carmine Marceno, is neck-deep in these serious government crimes. Scott Huminski, the founder and leader of the anti-police state rock band, Scott X and the Constitution Commandos, began receiving death threats from Maricopa County, Arizona, in 2013, through 2017. When Huminski began reporting the crime to Sheriff Mike Scott, instead of enforcing the law, Mike Scott chose to silence Huminski, and deny him law enforcement and public safety services in Lee County, to this pesky activist. So he then obtained a gag order, to silence Huminski. Henceforth all communication with the sheriff, or any of his staff, became a crime of contempt. Upon receipt of another death threat in 2017, Huminski reported it to the sheriff, as any ordinary citizen would, and the sheriff had his crony state attorney, Amira Fox, prosecute Huminski. For a critic of the police state, reporting a crime is a crime, contempt of court. Things went wrong for Amira Fox, because the court and judge she chose for the case, Judge Elizabeth Cryer, a circuit court judge, recused herself from the case, because of extreme conflict of interest. The new judge on the case was Chief Circuit Judge Michael McHugh, who does not have the same propensity to ignore the rule of law, that made Judge Cryer the perfect choice for Amira Fox. Although Circuit Judge McHugh knew of the dirty details of this case, he didn't wish to participate, and was happy to look on from the sidelines, while the corruption transpired. Amira Fox hatched a scheme to get a contempt of court case before a judge, and a court, whereby it would be guaranteed that activist Huminski would be convicted by a judge that would be willing to ignore the statutes and Constitution, Florida Contempt Rule 3.840, and the federal right to counsel, and a jury trial, mandated by the Bill of Rights, as well as Florida Rule 3.840. Now State Attorney Amira Fox had to get creative. She didn't want the contempt case in 17-CA-421, to be heard by Chief Circuit Judge Michael McHugh, because he tends to obey the rule of law, and he is not quite as prone to corruption. Fox needed a solution: forgery. On June 30, 2017, Amira Fox printed out a court order from the 20th Circuit Court, Case 17-CA-421, dated June 5, 2017. Here is page 1 of the June 5 order, with the correct timestamp, and the correct docket number, that Amira Fox printed out on June 30, 2017. Page 1 of order, all legitimate and proper. Still on June 30, Amira Fox, then with the printed out June 5 order in front of her, hand-modified the order by pen, handwritten, with a newly generated Lee County Court docket number, 17-MM-815, which she created behind the back of Judge Cryer, without a new signature from Judge Cryer. Here is page 1 of the forgery that Amira Fox manufactured on June 30, with a new handwritten docket number, and a double time stamp on the top of the paper, indicating that the order is a forgery, and not an original order authored and signed by a judge. The handwriting on the forgery is now ripe for analysis by the Carmine Marceno's Lee County Sheriff's Office, for felony forgery, and felony official misconduct charges, FS 831.01, FS 838.022, and he has notice and knowledge of the crimes. With a new docket number, and a fresh forgery of a court order that Amira Fox manufactured, behind the back of Judge Cryer, without a new signature from Judge Cryer, Fox was ready to prosecute a case against Scott Huminski, in another court, a second court, a double jeopardy violation. The cunning state's attorney, Amira Fox, then took this forgery to the clerk of court, told them that this was an order from a judge, when it was actually a forgery, manufactured by Amira Fox that same day. She then filed it as a charging document, initiating a new criminal case, in a completely different court, Lee County Court, with a forged handwritten docket number, 17-MM-815, with a lifted old judicial signature, and made sure the case was assigned to Judge James Adams. Amira Fox knew Judge James Adams would have no problem with the forgery, and a judge that had been caught and condemned by the 2nd District Court of Appeal, in Lakeland, Florida, in case Pena vs. State, and Judge James Adams had been reprimanded by the Florida Supreme Court, for sexual misconduct with an attorney appearing before him, in exchange for great results in court, for the sexually abused attorney. Case hijacking was right in Judge James Adams' comfort zone. Anything goes. Judge Adams' history of hijacking cases from other courts, and judges, made him the perfect judge to accept Amira Fox's forgery, and to work with Fox, to convict at all costs, which turned out to include stripping Huminski of defense counsel, and the right to a jury trial, mandated by the Bill of Rights, and Florida Rule 3.840. Now Fox had everything set up for conviction, based upon her forgery. There was just one problem though, because of the forgery of Judge Cryer's signature, electronically lifted from the June 5, 20th Circuit Court order, and the back channels used in the dark recesses of the Lee Courthouse complex, Huminski was never served with the forgery. There existed no valid case against Scott Huminski, because, unfortunately for State Attorney Amira Fox, judicial signatures cannot be recycled and reused, like clothing at a Goodwill store. They must be authentic originals. Here is the docket sheet from the case, initiated with the forgery, Lee County Court, 17-MM-815, no service. Fundamental due process in the United States requires a court to have personal and subject matter jurisdiction over a cause to proceed. Why didn't Amira Fox serve the document? It's free and quite simple. Maybe Amira Fox was just too embarrassed about the forgery, or the corrupt courthouse gymnastics used to get the forgery filed, in a new court, just caused her to forget to serve the document. She was just too busy manufacturing and filing the forgery. The result of a lack of service is a court has no personal jurisdiction over a defendant, equating to no legal case at all. The case is void. Here is the docket without service. Epilogue. The acts of moral turpitude by Sheriff Carmine Marceno, State's Attorney Amira Fox, Judge James Adams, and Clerk of Courts Linda Doggett, in this little corrupt corner of Southwest Florida, have extended to a Tampa appellate court, and to the Florida Supreme Court. Anything goes for a bloodthirsty prosecutor, out for a pound of flesh, despite the burden on courts throughout the state of Florida, foisted upon them by a corrupt prosecutor and judge, that rubber stamps prosecutorial misconduct and constitutional violations. This is judicial and prosecutorial misconduct that is prejudicial to the administration of justice. Judge Adams and Fox make an interesting crime-fighting, or, more properly, crime-perpetrating duo. Here is the brief filed in the Florida Supreme Court, that memorializes the events and issues presented in the case of per se government crime and misconduct. Huminski vs. Florida, SC 20-598. First of all, the June 5, 2017 signature of a judge cannot be lifted off one document, affixed to another document, and then held out by prosecutor Amira Fox, as an order authored by a judge, and valid to initiate a new case, in a new court, on June 30, 2017. The signature of Judge Cryer in Circuit Court Case 17-CA-421 is just that, a judicial signature, valid only on one document, in one court, the 20th Circuit Court, and in one case, 17-CA-421. As a criminal prosecutor, one would think Amira Fox would at least be better at forgery than simply lifting a judicial signature to forge a court order. The forgery of June 30, 2017, retains the signature of Judge Cryer from June 5, 2017, and the date of signing is June 5, 2017, and the paper is date-stamped on June 5, 2017, even though this manufactured order was created on June 30. The forgery of June 30 was hand-modified by Amira Fox, with a new docket and case number, and it is time and date stamped, both on June 5, 2017, and June 30, 2017. In the Lee Court Complex, court orders are indeed like used clothing at a Goodwill store, that can be used and recycled over and over again, lacking any scintilla of legitimacy. Amira Fox should have at least removed the June 5 courthouse date and time stamp from the filing in the Circuit Court, on the June 30 County Court filing, while she was manufacturing the order, to create a more credible new County Court order. In forgery, haste can make waste, or a very transparently poor forgery. Why the obsession to create a forged court order? Amira Fox correctly calculated that her chances of success in the Circuit Court were no longer good without Judge Cryer, who recused from the case. The forgery was manufactured not only for the purpose of judge shopping, but Amira Fox also engaged in the forgery for court shopping. If the case stayed in Circuit Court, where it was properly initiated, there would be no need for a forged court order. She desperately wished the case to be in County Court, with Judge Adams, who was known for case hijacking and constitutional deprivations, among other scandalous problems. The forgery by Amira Fox was accompanied by assistance from the Clerk of Courts, Linda Doggett, who falsified court records by backdating and docketing the forgery to almost a month earlier, to make it appear more legitimate on court docket sheets. Amira Fox and the clerk also falsified the offense date on court docket sheets in Lee County Court, 17-MM815 docket sheet. The true offense date is April 26, 2017, not June 5, 2017, as lied to by the Clerk of Courts, on court docket sheet, that Linda Doggett, in 2019, certified as authentic to the 2nd District Court of Appeal, in Lakeland, Florida. Here is the very first order of April 26, 2017, memorializing the true and correct offense date, on or before April 26, 2017. True order and correct offense date. Unlike the felony official misconduct, FS 838.022, forgery of Fox and Doggett, this court order is the true and authentic, 119 pages long, not the 3-page length of the Amira Fox forgery. This is felony official misconduct related to the docket sheet, and the mysterious disappearance of 116 pages from the court order, is further evidence of sloppy forgery, and felony official misconduct related to the felony forgery. The clerk's backdating, and false offense date, are felony official misconduct related to the docket sheet. In fact, the filing date of the forgery of June 30, 2017, even though stamped on the forgery by the clerk, appears nowhere on any court docket sheet, in any related case, at the Lee Courthouse complex. Detailed descriptions, copies of court papers, government documents, and other evidence were forwarded to Sheriff Carmine Marceno, and are at the Sunshine Law document request at muckrock.com, alerting Sheriff Carmine Marceno of the rampant crime flourishing in the Lee Court complex. What has Sheriff Carmine Marceno done, subsequent to his knowledge of these crimes? cover them up, and hope nobody notices. The aftermath. Now, the new unelected sheriff, Carmine Marceno, appointed by former Governor Rick Scott, at the insistence of former Sheriff Mike Scott, who has received a formal complaint of the courthouse forgery, via a muckrock.com sunshine law request, is happy to be part of the cover-up in this courthouse crime. He is now actively participating in the cover-up. Forgery and official misconduct are third-degree felonies, as described in Florida statutes, Section 831.01, and 838.022, and carry a penalty of up to 5 years in prison, up to 5 years of probation, and up to a $5,000 fine. The statute of limitations for cases against government employees extends for 3 years after the government employee leaves office. The statute of limitations will still hold for 3 years after Amira Fox, Linda Doggett, Judge James Adams, and Carmine Marceno leave their offices. Sheriff Carmine Marceno continued on with Mike Scott's crime of embracing a gag order against Huminski, if Huminski reported a crime. Reporting crime is a crime, in Mike Scott's, and now Carmine Marceno's, world. The gag order is still in effect, barring Huminski's communication with anyone working under Marceno, including his staff, who are always present at the courthouse, as bailiffs and security. And, now, there's the forgery and official misconduct that Marceno knows about, and is covering up. Amira Fox was prosecuting Huminski for reporting a crime to Sheriff Mike Scott, the crime of death threats Huminski was getting from Maricopa County, Arizona. For an activist like Scott Huminski, that the government wishes to silence, reporting a crime is a crime, and the First Amendment is cast aside. Now close allies, Sheriff Carmine Marceno and State Attorney Amira Fox are truly partners in crime, as well as in politics. Ironically, tragically and notoriously, the court shopping scheme of Amira Fox, via the use of forgery and official misconduct, was invalidated by a 2019 order of a Tampa Appellate Court, the 2nd District Court of Appeal, in Huminski v. State, 2D 19-1247. Here is the ruling, finding that the offense Huminski was charged with, contempt of court, can only be heard by the court where it occurred, invalidating the criminal antics of Amira Fox, and her cohorts in the Lee County Court, for a 20th Circuit Court contempt matter, yet, Huminski stands convicted and was imprisoned. Ruling 2D 17-1247. This ruling is patently consistent with logic. The charge was contempt of court, not contempt of every and any court. Illegally adjudicating alleged circuit court contempt in county courts is corruption unique to only Southwest Florida. The remainder of the state operates legally. However, the official crimes impact Tampa area courts, and the Florida Supreme Court, as this level of corruption is hard to contain. AEGIS, in the AEGIS Alliance, stands for, the Activists, Alliance for the Exposure of Government Intelligence and Secrets. We do not claim to be a leader of the Legion. The AEGIS Alliance has anonymous allies. They are anonymous, they do not forgive the corruption by Lee County, Florida officials, and they'll never forget it. You should have expected the Legion,